À, ok, thì đấy là một xíu giới thiệu về SheHub để cho mọi người cùng được biết. Các cái hoạt động của SheHub thì chúng mình sẽ còn diễn ra trong tháng 2 và tháng 3 nữa, nên cũng rất là mong mọi người chờ đón các hoạt động của chúng mình. Nhân tiện đây thì nhờ team mọi người có thể share lại cái fanpage của SheHub để các bạn có thể join, để có thể like, ủng hộ, follow SheHub nè. Rồi nếu mình muốn connect thêm với SheHub thì mọi người có thể có contact qua email và qua Zalo, chúng mình cũng rất là sẵn sàng để kết nối với các bạn. Rồi tiếp ạ. Chị chuyển slide cho chị với. Rồi thì hôm nay chúng mình rất là hân hạnh được giới thiệu diễn giả là Dr. Jacob Kashiwagi. Ờm, thì thầy Jacob thì là founder và là chủ tịch của cái tổ chức là Leadership Society of Arizona, và thầy thì cũng đang là managing director của cái công ty là Kashiwagi Solution Model, và thầy là giám đốc của cái chương trình Performance Based Study Research Group. Thì là một chút giới thiệu về thầy. Một giới thiệu cá nhân hơn thì thầy Jacob là mentor của mình trong 5 năm qua. Mình biết đến thầy từ năm 2018 ở thời điểm mà mình sang Mỹ theo chương trình trao đổi Wisely Academic Fellowship. Và trong 5 năm qua thì mình thường xuyên liên lạc với thầy, đầu tiên là hàng tuần, sau đấy 2 tuần một lần, và bây giờ là 1 tháng một lần, để mình được kết nối, được học hỏi, được hỗ trợ từ thầy. Thế nên là hôm nay thì mình rất là vinh dự và trân trọng được giới thiệu thầy để chia sẻ với mọi người. Và nói thế thì mọi người cũng thoải mái ấy, mình không phải quá là trịnh trọng, cũng không phải là quá là xa cách với thầy, tại vì thầy thực ra là rất là dễ gần và rất là muốn được chia sẻ, hỗ trợ, kết nối cùng với các cái bạn leader ở Việt Nam. Và hồi 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 mà bọn mình học thì là leader toàn bộ Đông Nam Á, thì cũng kết nối rất là sâu sắc và chặt chẽ với các bạn. Cho tới nay ở Việt Nam thì mình có một bạn nữa là bạn Tiên ở trong Sài Gòn, hai đứa cũng thường xuyên là kết nối với thầy. Xong bọn mình cũng giới thiệu chị Đinh Hương là một thành viên của SheHub cũng kết nối với thầy. Bọn mình rất là mong là có nhiều dịp để mọi người có thể có kết nối cá nhân với thầy nữa, tại vì mình tin là thầy thì rất là willing, rất là sẵn sàng để hỗ trợ chúng ta. Miễn là như kiểu như hợp nhau ấy, vậy thì cái việc đấy là chuyện rất là sẵn sàng và thoải mái. Nên là mình cũng rất là mừng khi mà mình có thể kéo thầy sang đây, xong rồi để mọi người được nói chuyện với thầy, để mình được kết nối thầy với mọi người, và mình tin là những cái điều đó rất là giá trị, nên mình làm nó với một cái tâm thế rất là hào hứng và sung sướng. Đấy ạ. Rồi, thế thì tiếp ạ. Rồi thì chắc là trước khi chúng mình đi nhảy vào luôn cái chương trình ấy, thì mình cũng muốn hỏi mọi người để mọi mình cũng được biết là các bạn tham gia hôm nay là các bạn đang, nếu mà các bạn đã từng tham gia các chương trình trao đổi của của chính phủ Mỹ ấy, cái US Government Exchange Program, thì nhờ các bạn gõ vào trong chat giúp mình là các bạn đi chương trình nào và năm bao nhiêu, được không ạ? Còn nếu như các bạn chưa từng tham gia thì mình chỉ cần gõ là khác thôi, thì cái điều đấy sẽ giúp cho chúng mình rất là nhiều để chúng mình hiểu hơn được cái trải nghiệm của các bạn, và nó cũng giúp cho chúng mình biết được là mình có thể hỗ trợ được bạn tốt nhất như thế nào. OK, cảm ơn Trà My. Mình thấy có bạn, Trà My đi Wisely Professional, đúng không? Năm 2022 này. Wow, rất là mới. Mình là đi 2018, các bạn. Có chị Hằng là đi cũng là Professional 2018 này. Thủy là đi, 2023. Em bé mới đi về, em bé đang rất là yêu. Rồi có bạn là đến từ bên, có bạn là đến từ chương trình khác, hoặc đến từ bên cộng đồng này. Rất là mừng, cũng rất là welcome các bạn ở ngoài cộng đồng, các bạn tham gia vào cùng ấy, tại vì chương trình là chương trình mà SheHub mở cho tất cả mọi người. Mình rất là hy vọng là những cái nội dung này có thể được đến với nhiều người hơn nữa. Có link đến đi academic 2022-23. Có Nhi đi 2022. Wow, rất là đa dạng, đúng không ạ? Còn những người khác thì sao ạ? Nếu mà các bạn, cảm thấy thoải mái thì mình có thể chat vào đây xem là mọi người đi chương trình nào, nếu không thì mọi người bấm gõ khác, để chúng mình hiểu được cái trải nghiệm của mọi người. Rồi, cái câu hỏi thứ hai là cũng là câu hỏi dành cho tất cả mọi người đây, đấy là mọi người đã có bao nhiêu năm trải nghiệm ở vị trí lãnh đạo, vị trí leader? Và ở đây khi mình nói về cái vị trí lãnh đạo thì mình nói ở cái nghĩa rộng của nó. Ờm, Nghĩa rộng có nghĩa là nó không chỉ là việc mình ở một cái vị trí trong công việc, hay là một cái dự án, hay một cái tổ chức nào cụ thể, mà là miễn là lúc nào mình cảm thấy là mình đang lead, mình đang ở vai trò dẫn dắt, mình đang ở vai trò leader. Ở bất cứ cái tình huống nào thì mình cũng tính hết, thì xem là mọi người đang có bao nhiêu năm rồi. Bao nhiêu tháng cũng được nha, cái điều này nó cũng không phải là mình không phải flex gì hết ấy, mình chỉ muốn biết là trải nghiệm của mọi người như thế nào thôi. Một cái, rất là buồn cười của chúng mình đấy là có lúc bọn mình thấy là ở trong gia đình ấy, nó cũng có cái vị trí leadership ở đấy chứ không phải không. Trong, gần đây mình tổ chức đám cưới cho anh trai mình chẳng hạn, thì mình thấy là ôi, trời ơi, là leadership vãi cả chưởng luôn, chứ không chỉ là là ở ngoài công việc, đúng không ạ? 5 năm, 3 năm, các bạn khác thì sao ạ? Ừm, leading youth-led organization, wow, 5 năm. Rồi, mọi người khác ạ, mình vẫn đang chờ thêm cái phản hồi của mọi người. Và cũng rất là cảm ơn mọi người phản hồi như thế này, thì mình nghĩ là thầy Jacob cũng có được cái nhìn về, người tham gia của chúng ta ngày hôm nay và cũng biết được là có thể có những cái nội dung phù hợp với cái kinh nghiệm và cái trải nghiệm của mọi người tốt nhất ấy. Có ai nữa không nhở? Không thấy mọi người nhắn mấy, thấy mọi người đang im hay là mọi người đang ăn tối? Kiểu như mọi người đang ăn tối xong rồi mọi người, à, vừa ăn như kiểu mình mà không phải là người nói hôm nay ấy, mình sẽ ngồi vừa ăn vừa nghe. Ô kê, 5 năm, 3 năm. Mình đang thấy con số 5 năm và 3 năm là chủ đạo này, có 4 năm này. Cảm ơn mọi người. Ô kê, next ạ. Mình vẫn mọi người cứ cứ tiếp tục chat nhá, nếu mọi người có cứ tiếp tục chat. OK, thì đây là cái agenda của chương trình hôm nay. Thực ra nó là những cái câu hỏi mà mình sẽ đi qua những cái câu hỏi và những cái câu trả lời mà thầy Jacob sẽ trình bày với mọi người. Và cuối cùng là mình sẽ có phần Q&A. Chúng mình đã nhận một vài cái câu hỏi ở trong cái form đăng ký của mọi người rồi, và chúng mình cũng sẽ nhận, thêm các cái câu hỏi ở cuối chương trình nữa. Thế nên là mọi người có cái câu hỏi gì thì mình cứ thoải mái đặt ra cho diễn giả nhé. Khi mọi người đặt câu hỏi thì mọi người có thể đặt câu hỏi bằng tiếng Anh hoặc tiếng Việt đều được. À, nếu mọi người đặt câu hỏi bằng tiếng Việt thì các bạn hỗ trợ của chúng mình sẽ hỗ trợ để dịch sang tiếng Anh cho diễn giả. Và ngược lại khi diễn giả trả lời thì cũng có các bạn hỗ trợ dịch lại bằng việc gõ vào phần chat. Thế còn trong xuyên suốt cái quá trình mà diễn giả chia sẻ ấy, thì, những cái note taking, những cái phần ghi tóm tắt, dịch lại tóm tắt thì cũng sẽ được các bạn ở trong team của mình, hỗ trợ. Còn nếu như vẫn còn cái điều gì khác mà các bạn cảm thấy cần ấy, thì mình cứ gõ vào chat thôi, mình cũng thoải mái, không sợ là ngại hay phiền gì hết ấy. Tại vì mình cũng muốn là mọi người nếu đã dành thời gian tham gia vào ở đây thì mọi người sẽ có được cái hiểu và cái nhận lại được nhiều nhất có thể. Rồi ạ. Nhi ơi, thế là hết cái phần slide từ phía mình rồi, phải không em? Mình sẽ chuyển sang handover sang cho thầy, đúng không? Okay, good. Yes, that from our side, a little bit introduction and interaction with the participants. So now I hand over to you, Jacob, and yeah, the stage is yours. So you mute.
Okay, did you give me the ability to share my PowerPoint?
Okay, wait, let me make you co-host so that
Okay.
you can share PowerPoint, and I put you as spotlight so that, yeah, good.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. Okay, doing here. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, very good. Okay, now look, we're a small group. So in my experience, it is more important what you want to hear than what I'm going to present. So while I'm presenting, if you have a question, you can speak up. Okay. Now it's really hard for me to see the chat. So Nino, if someone has a question, they don't want to actually speak, I'd rather you speak. I'd rather hear you and see you. So
Okay.
if you got a question, just unmute yourself and speak. if you don't want to do that and you want to put in the chat, you know, if you can watch the chat and let me know when someone has a question.
Sure, sure.
Now,
Yeah.
in my experience, people don't want to listen very much. And so I don't want to talk very much. And I don't want to waste anyone's time. So this is going to be very simple, straightforward. And if you have any questions, no question is a dumb question. What I'm going to show you today, you know, most people teach the exact opposite of what I teach. The traditional leadership is very different than what I'm going to teach you today. So don't feel bad if you're getting confused, even though the ideas are really simple. Please speak up, okay? And I know that's a different philosophy than and different model than traditional Asian presentations. Usually you don't speak, usually you just present. So yeah, feel free to have a conversation with me. Okay. Now, leadership. I like to start off with the story. So you have a father and he has a son, and the son is going through a really tough time. So the father's thinking, what can I do for my son? And he gets an idea. He blindfolds his son, puts a blindfold on him, and he takes him up this really high mountain. Okay. And he puts on this cliff, he takes him on a cliff, and he puts his son's head behind a really big rock. And he unties the blindfold, and the son sees this really big rock. And the father asks his son, what do you see? The son's like, I see a rock. And the father lifts his son's head up to reveal this magnificent valley. And as the son is gazing over this valley, oh, here, I think I need to admit people. Oh, you got it? As the son is gazing over this magnificent valley, the father asks the son, how big does a rock look now? This is what I call the essence of leadership. When someone is a leader, they're able to see the big picture. They're able to put everything in perspective. Sometimes, and many times, we get caught up on all the little details in life. And a little rock can actually seem like a big rock, even though in reality, it's very small compared to everything else. A leader is able to see the big picture. They see the value of everything in life, including themselves, right? They see where everything belongs. So much in life and so many times, people put themselves in a silo. When you go about doing things in life, oftentimes you put your family, anything you do with your family, you put in one place. Anything you do with religion or education or whatever it might be, you're putting it in different silos. But the reality of it is, a leader, instead of getting into the technical details and looking at one little thing, they're able to lift their head up and they see the relationship between everything in life. They understand how everything is related. Hence, everything becomes more simple for the leader. As you lift your head up and you see the big picture, everything in life becomes a lot more simple. You see the correlation between everything. And the most significant thing about this, if you didn't know, is when you're in the silo, you can tell the people aren't happy. But as soon as they get out of the silo, you can see that they have a smiling face. That's why leaders are so happy, because when they get out of the silo, they see everything and it becomes simple. When things are simple, less stress, less worry, you can be happier. right? And this is really where we want to get to, is we want to get to a leadership that is happy. There are many types of leadership that are not happy. There are many people in life that are not happy. But what I want to teach is a leadership that makes you happier, that makes life more simple for you. Okay. And this is really the purpose, is for you to realize today that no matter what silo you're in, if you lift your head up, there's a relationship between everything you do. How you work, how you treat your family, how you interact socially, all the different areas of life, whether you're in business or education, nonprofit groups, everything is related. And the more understanding and leadership you get, the more you see the relationship between everything you do. So this is how simple leadership is. Very simple, but very difficult. First, I got to show you the traditional. The traditional is the leader is an expert, and the leader is telling everybody what to do. And because the leader is telling everybody what to do, the more leadership, the more the worker capability increases. So the greater your leadership, the greater everybody who's following you can perform. But this is inaccurate. This assumes that the leader can influence other people. And this is what most people believe. In fact, every single type of leadership, almost, the core is the ability to influence other people. This is what you've been taught. This makes life really complicated. To try to change another person, we have found takes a lot of effort, a lot of work, and in the end, it does not work. In the end, you're expending a lot of effort for nothing. Very hard to influence other people. But leadership is not about influence. So all of these leadership models, they don't work. You can try it, but it won't make you happy and it won't make you successful. This is what true leadership is. It is not changing people, but it is aligning them correctly. So you can see, it doesn't matter how much leadership you have, the worker capability stays the same. You can't change people. They can only do what they can do. But the greater leadership you have, the greater productivity of the entire group. Now you might be asking, how can the entire group improve, but you not change the individual? Very simple. You have a construction team. They have two workers, a painter and a concrete worker. These people are naturally skilled in painting and in concrete work. If you have a leader who understands who they are and aligns them correctly, then of course the leader is going to put the person who's naturally good at painting doing what? The painting work. And the person who's naturally good at doing concrete work, he's going to put them doing the concrete work. Because he aligns them correctly, the productivity of the group increases. The cost of doing business goes down. Now, what about that influence leader? The influence leader says, it doesn't matter who they are. I'm going to put the painting guy doing the concrete work and the concrete worker doing the painting work. How good is that going to be? Not going to be good at all. He's going to have to, one, find out they're not very good at their job. So then he's going to have to take them to training. He's going to have to try to train them really well. Then he's going to find out they still don't know their job. So he's going to hire a manager to manage, direct, and tell these people what to do. And then he's going to find out they're still not very good at what they do. So then he's going to hire an inspector to inspect their work. And eventually he's going to have to hire someone to redo their work. when you don't align people, the cost of doing business goes dramatically up. And this is what we've found. But people who understand true leadership, they know that people need to be put in the right place. So they put the painting worker doing the painting work and the concrete worker doing the concrete work. And now the entire group does a lot better. And so this is the influence model. In another way, if you've ever seen that little toy that little kids play with, and you have the shapes and you got to put the different shapes in the different sides, that matches up with like the star, you got to put in the star shape, the square, you got to put in the square shape. Have you ever seen one of your kids trying to put like the square in the triangle? And they keep trying to put it in, but it doesn't get put in. Sometimes it's kind of cute. But have you ever seen a grown person do that? It's not as cute. But this is what many people try to do every day. They try to take a person and they try to shove them in a different shape. And eventually they try to shove it in so much that they force it in. But it doesn't do very well. The influence model is all about trying to change people. And if you're trying to change someone, it means your constraint is with the follower. So you can only be a good leader if you have good followers. So it requires a lot of resources. And basically it relieves the management from accountability because the issue is always with who? The follower, because they need a change. But this is really what leadership is. Leadership is understanding who people are. And so leadership is about aligning people with the right shape. So you can see this model, it now aligns the different shapes with the correct holes. Leaders are more about changing the structure and creating a good environment that naturally aligns with people they're leading. It's not about changing the people. In life, when you look at the right people leading, these people are very rarely ever seen. They don't do much in terms of trying to talk to people. They do more with shaping the company. And you will find this with every successful leader. In fact, one Gillette, which is ran by Procter and Gamble, they had a CEO that they have like thousands of employees. At the time they were most successful, nobody knew who their CEO was. Nobody knew who the leader was because he never talked and nobody ever saw him. But the reason they were so successful was because the leader made the right structure. He aligned people where they needed to be, and he then just let them go. When you align people in the right hole, you don't have to tell them what to do. You don't have to give them a lot of instruction. You just let them go, right? And I have been doing this type of leadership for multiple years. And this is the success we've seen on projects. You save millions and millions of dollars when you just align people correctly. And we've even done this with youth groups. We do the same type of leadership with youth groups. We teach them the same type of leadership. And you can see the change and what happens. It's quite amazing when you look at it. Okay. So now ask me some questions. Does anybody have a question on what leadership is here? Because I see some confused looks. I know you must have some questions here.
Wow, I know about the concept not the first time, but I still feel very amazed how you talk about it. Oh my God. It's huge when we talk about no influence leadership. And it's so different with the traditional one.
Yeah, so how are you going to apply this, right? First, let's start off with you. If you're looking at this new leadership model, if you're not trying to change other people, who are you trying to change? What are you trying to change?
Is that the system?
You're trying to change the system. So, for example, in my life, the biggest system that I have tried to change my entire life is my system, my structure in which I live, right? I've been trying to change when I sleep, my sleeping habits. I try to change what I do when I go to sleep or preparing to sleep, what I do when I wake up. I am adjusting how I deal with people, what I do, what I spend my time on, how my house is structured, right? Changing you becomes the main focus, how you do things, how you interact with people, right? When you go into your business, what are you trying to change? How your business operates. I have tried to eliminate anything that takes approval. So first, my main job as a leader is to find good people that mesh with my vision and what I need. If I need an IT guy, I try to go and find a really good IT guy. My job is to recognize when I meet really good people. And how much of this do I want to do in my life? Very little. I want to eliminate my talking. If I have to talk, it means something in my life is inefficient because this takes a lot of time.
I
How
have one
many of you do?
question.
Go on.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I have one question. I'm a little bit confused about what you just said, and I don't want to like it passed, so it jumped to another content. I'm a bit confused on the part that you say that no influence leaders, you basically don't change the capability of your employee or people who work for you. Uh, it's a bit confusing to me because let's say I'm not a leader, but if I'm looking for a good leader for me to work with, then I would look for somebody who can help me to improve my capability. And I think that for the team that I have worked with, I feel like the expectation is also the same, that when you're working, you want yourself, your capability to be better, to be improved. So I
Yeah.
kind of think that it should be both way. I understand the idea of not changing people. Maybe it's about character, personality, or mindset, but about capability. I mean that a
Yeah.
painter would want to become a better painter, right?
Yes. So here's the thing. How does a painter become a better painter? The only way for you to improve is for you to be given the opportunity to learn and to do something, right? A painter can't become a better painter unless they have practice in painting. So how does a leader help someone improve without telling them what to do and without actually trying to change them? I'll give you an example. When people come to me and they want to be able to become a leader and become a mentor, I tell them, look, here's the thing is nobody can teach you to become a better mentor. The only way you can become a better mentor and leader is if you live it, is if you actually go out and do something and try to lead people. So when people come into my organization, there's no training for them. I don't train them. I put them right into a position and I tell them, okay, here's your opportunity. Go and lead. Now, of course, if I put them in a really difficult leadership position, they're going to fail. So my job is to put them in a leadership capacity that they have the capability to do, but that will help them do something that will help them to grow. So when people come and learn leadership from me, I don't train them. I put them in a role and I have them start doing something. And as they do something, they're naturally going to improve and they're going to have questions. When they have questions, what do? I answer their questions. So I'm not trying to change them. I'm letting them go out and improve themselves. And I am just a source of information on what they want to know and what they want to hear. This is why when I present, I want you to ask me questions. Because I can do this all day long, but unless you want to know something, then I'm just wasting my time. Does that make sense? So leaders give people an opportunity to progress by actually going and doing something. So let me give you an example, and I'll mention this later, but Honda. Honda is a very big Japanese automotive manufacturer. When Honda hires people, they don't do any training. They bring in the new engineers, they take them around the entire plant to show them what's going on, and they tell their people, okay, if you want a job, go find something to do. And the new engineers, they have to go find out what they can do in the manufacturing plant. If they find a good job that they know how to do, that they can get better at, they have a job, they're hired. But if they can't find anything to do, what do they do with that engineer? They don't hire them because they don't fit into the structure. This is a very different type of leadership, right?
Yeah.
What does this type of leadership do? It puts a great amount of emphasis on the leader. The company is constrained, or the family is constrained, or the individual is constrained by the capability of the leader to understand people, to understand what they're going through, to be able to see the big picture. Now, this is good news and it's bad news. The good news is you can practice this and you can get better at this no matter what your position, no matter what you're doing in life. Because you can always improve yourself. The bad news is it's very difficult to do this. Why? Because it's really hard for you to change yourself, right? You'd much rather tell other people to change instead of you having to change. It's easier to tell other people what to do. It's harder for you to improve yourself and to make changes in your own life so that you do things correctly and you do things better. Any other questions with this? So I have a question here now. We're going to move along. And look, I've been all over the world. Our research has been all over the world with billion-dollar companies to very small companies. But it's the same no matter what you do. And I was first introduced to this in my family. Dr. Dean was my father, or is my father. And at this time, I have 7 siblings, so there's 8 of us in my family. The traditional issue, you have very few people who are capable of doing something, and you have a lot of people who are dependent upon the leaders to do something. And that was us in our family. I am on the far right. I'm the 13-year-old at this time. So I was in the middle of my family. I was a middle child of 8 kids. And my family was very traditional. It was led very traditionally. My dad used a very management, direction, and control type leadership. He would tell us everything to do. We had rules for when we could eat. We had rules for when we needed to sleep. In the summer, they ran this continual improvement program known as summer school, where we would wake up at like 6 a.m. in the morning and we'd have to do math, writing, all these things for the entire day. But I show this picture because how do you think we all like this leadership model? Well, if you look at this, who do you think looked the most unhappy? My older siblings. The oldest siblings are unhappy. Why? Because this model was not working. And my two older brothers have always had a very difficult time in life. So my dad, when my oldest brother was 19, he looked into his eyes and he asked him, "What are you going to do with your life?" And there's a blank stare. My older brother, he was told what to do so much that he no longer had the capability to make his own decisions. He didn't know what he was going to do. This scared my dad. And so what my dad did was he decided to change his philosophy to the no influence philosophy. Instead of trying to force everyone to get good grades, everyone needed to get, the top grades in the class. Everyone needed to learn how to play an instrument. Everybody needed to learn martial arts. Everybody needed to be able to clean the house, do the chores. Everybody needed to be polite and well dressed. But when he saw that my oldest siblings, this didn't help them in their life, and they were always getting into trouble, he changed his model. And his model became, instead of telling everyone what to do, he said, "There's no rules." In our family, he got rid of all the rules and all the punishments. So you didn't have to clean. If you didn't want to go to school, you didn't have to go to school. So you can see my youngest sibling was 4 years old at this time. And the second youngest was 7 years old. Their whole life, they grew up in this no influence model where they had no rules. And my dad decided that instead of trying to tell us what to do and spend his energy trying to punish us and force us to do things, he would spend all of his energy on helping us do what we wanted to do. So all throughout my younger brother's high school experience, if they wanted to skip school, they could skip school. My parents would excuse them. My youngest brothers didn't need to do anything. They only did what they wanted to do. Now you might ask, well, how did this work? Well, I'll tell you how this worked. My youngest siblings, they skipped school, they didn't get good grades, they played video games all day long, they went to bed really late at night, they ate junk food, they did everything you could imagine a teenager would do if they had their total freedom. And we all thought that my youngest 2 siblings would be spoiled, rotten, good-for-nothing brats their entire life. But guess what happened? About when they were juniors and seniors in high school, so, the last 2 grade levels in high school, something changed. They realized that everything they were doing was not making themselves happy. All the trouble they were getting into, they realized it wasn't making them happy. And on their own, they actually changed. They stopped playing video games. They stopped watching TV all the time. They started to study. They actually started to try to do things in life. And as they grew up, when they're in high school, I was teaching in college. And these two boys, I trusted them more than my PhD students, and they were only in high school. They were more intelligent and more responsible and more creative and innovative than any of my other PhD students at the time. These two now are grown up. They're now 30 years old plus, and they have great families, and they became really good people. And now they're coaches in our nonprofit organization. So even in your family, you can practice this alignment leadership. It's when you want to really lead, it becomes, instead of trying to tell people what to do, it becomes trying to understand who people are and helping other people get to where they want to go. Now, here's the confusion. And this is what you're thinking, just like the question asked before. Well, you see the wild dolphin and you see the trained dolphin, and you think, I was actually asked this question because in my PhD defense, my professor asked me, well, you're saying there's no such thing as influence, Jacob. But what about the dolphins? I said, what do you mean, what about the dolphins? He says, when I go into the wild, the dolphin only jumps so high. But when I go to the amusement park with the trainer, after the dolphins have been trained, the dolphins jump really high. Are you telling me that the trainer had no influence over the dolphins? And I thought about it. And then I asked him a couple of questions. Well, how do you know the wild dolphin can't jump as high as the dolphins in SeaWorld? Naturally. Well, now that we have footage, we find out that yes, dolphins in the wild can jump just as high as any dolphin in an amusement park without being trained. Then I asked him another question. Do all dolphins in the wild, when they get trained, do all the dolphins, when they go to the amusement park, do they all make the show? Meaning, do all the dolphins, do they have the capability to actually do the show in the amusement park? And what you find out is, no. There are some dolphins that even after they've been trained, they don't jump very high. They don't do the show though. You don't see them. You only see the dolphins that actually do jump high in the show. And this is what I realized with him. And for those of you who like math, this deals with you. You have two independent equations. You got x and y. When you have two equations, they're independent. They don't influence each other. But you can use one equation to solve for the variables in the other equation. This is what you call algebra, right? Or algebra 2. You can do this because they're similar, because they have similar variables. Even though they don't influence each other, they have similarities. And it is the same way with people. If you look at person 1, and now you look at person 2, they don't influence each other, but they're by each other because they have similarities. And this is the same way with trainers and dolphins, or with leaders and followers. They're together because they have similar variables. Dolphins that like to jump high are in shows where they jump high, and with trainers that want them to jump high. Dolphins that don't like to jump high and don't have the capability to jump high They don't make the show. And they're not with trainers that want to make them jump high. See, here's what people didn't realize is that you have no influence on people. People naturally gravitate to people who they want to be like. So when you look at any great sports player, they always have a coach. But the coach didn't make the person great. The person had it in themselves to be great. But people who want to improve, they always find someone who can help them improve, who can give them the opportunities they need to be better. And so if you want to be a leader in your life, you have to become really good at understanding how to give people opportunities, to align people in the right place, to let them grow, not to tell them what to do. This works in your family. How many of you have children? If any of you have children, this is going to really help you out because you need to be a good leader for your children, which means it's not about you telling your child, do this, do that, making a lot of rules for them. It's about you understanding who your child is and giving them opportunities to allow them to grow, right?
I want
So
to ask,
yes.
I think that this is really eye-opening for me, so thank you, because this is a very different perspective that I heard. I would say it's the first time. So, but when you talk about understanding people and how to put them in the right place, that
Yeah.
gets to me, like how could I understand people? Especially I just have a child who is 6 months old, and somehow I'm worried maybe I don't understand her in the future.
Yes. So
Even
you're
right
trying
now
to
when she
figure out.
cries, it takes me time. Yeah, that's right.
So you're trying to figure out how do I understand people better? Now
That's right.
I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I learn from them every day. Because when you're the leader, you cannot assume that you know everything. Sometimes as parents, sometimes when we're in management positions, we feel we have to know everything. I have people who are in my business and who are in my nonprofit that are much more talented than me. It doesn't bother me at all. I learn from them, just like I learned from my 4-year-old. So the other day, my 4-year-old, he does something and he doesn't get his way. Of course, he did something not good and he was crying. And so I'm holding him and I told him, hey, Zuzu, that's his name, Zuzu. Zuzu, don't cry. Stop crying. And he told me, but Daddy, I want to cry. I want to cry really loud. And I thought to myself, well, what's wrong with him crying really loud? Why should he not do what he wants to do? I cry sometimes. Sometimes I have a fit, right? Sometimes I get angry and I want to cry really loud. What am I doing telling this little kid not to cry? So what I did, I told him, you're right. If you want to cry really loud, we're at home, there's nobody else. Go cry really loud. And so he cried really loud for about 10 minutes. And then he stopped. And then he told me, okay, Daddy, I'm done. Let's go play. And then we went and played. Right? Sometimes we think we know everything. We think it should be our way. But if you want to get to know other people, if you want to understand your child, instead of telling them what to do, you listen to them more. You watch what they're doing. You watch how they react to things, and it will help you to understand them. So in my presentation, I had an activity, but I'm going to go through it, and I'm just going to tell you the answer. How do you get to know people better? This is what you do. Isn't this so simple? If you want to get to know other people, then you have to think of other people more. You have to try to service them. The more you try to think of your child, the more you try to think of your workers, the more you watch them, the more you try to help them in their lives, the better you're going to get at understanding and aligning people correctly. This is not rocket science. A lot of people try to make leadership to be very complex. It's not very complex. You want to be a better leader, then try to lead people more. You want to understand people more, then think of other people more. Very simple. Thinking of other people is very hard, right? Because in order to think of other people, first you have to think of who? Yourself. You can't think of other people if you can't even think of yourself. So first you have to think of yourself. You have to think of what do you need to be stable? What do you need to improve? And as you get better at that, then you can look at other people and you can think of other people and think of what they need. Think of what they're going through. Thinking of other people is a skill. And just like every skill, the more you do it, the better you get at it. It's a cycle. The more you do, the better you get. And so if you want to become a good leader, if you want to understand people and you want to be able to help them more, if you want to help your company more, if you want to help the people under you more, then you have to begin trying to do it more. You have to think of other people more. And if you have children, there's no greater thing in life that will force you to think of other people more than having children. They're always with you and you have to think of them a lot. It's not an easy thing being a parent, right? But the more you do it, the better you get. And the lucky thing about this is it doesn't matter where you do it. If you practice being a leader as a parent or in a nonprofit group, or maybe in a social group, no matter where you do it, if you practice doing it, you'll get better. And the better you get, wherever you go, you will be able to do it. Leadership is a skill that transfers no matter where you are. Any questions with this?
I have a question for myself. Well, I think for the last few years, I've been really thinking about being of service for people. However, sometimes I feel like I'm caught myself in the situation of me being people pleaser and didn't hold the boundary for myself really tight. Sometimes I feel that people cross my own boundary, and it made me really tired. Sometimes I even burn myself out with trying to support, trying to be the service without taking care of myself. Yeah, it's a sad
Yes.
story.
So here's the thing, is let me ask you a question, Mina. Can you help people more or less if you are burned out, if you are not stable?
Definitely less.
So if you want to think of other people more and you want to help other people more, the only way to do it is if you are stable. Hence, if you're really thinking of other people, who are you going to take care of first?
Myself?
You got it. Let me give you an example. I have a person I mentor in my work. He's a director in our nonprofit group. And he was telling me, my wife is requiring too much of my time. She's not letting me be successful at work. What should I do? And I told him, look, if your family is not stable, if your wife is not happy, are you going to do better work or worse work? He's like, well, I guess I'm going to be worse because I'm going to be drained. I'm going to have to, work with my wife and she's not happy. I told him, look, if you hope to be a good leader at work, if you hope to produce a lot at work, then you have to learn to take care of your own family first. If your family is not stable, it's going to take more time, more effort, and it's going to eliminate how much you can do at work. So I told him, if you want to get better at your work, figure out how to take care of your wife better. And this goes for everybody. If you want to do better in life, you first have to learn to take care of yourself. How do you know what other people need? Because you've already learned what you need. You're no different than everybody else. If you can't even take care of yourself and know what you need to do to take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of other people? It's impossible. And so leadership is a balance with learning to take care of yourself so that you can actually help other people more. Did that make sense?
Yes.
So if you are helping other people so much that you are unstable, that you can't take care of yourself, that's not the right thing. You're not really thinking of other people because you're actually not doing as much as you could for other people because you're unstable. So those people who really think of others, they also think of who? Themselves. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Now, I have an activity, but we're actually running a little shorter on time. Do people have questions that they would like to ask me more questions in what you want to hear? Or do you want me to keep moving? Because I know there was a lot of questions asked ahead of time, and we can definitely get into those questions right now.
I would think of the continue with the activity. Yeah, so that everyone can working on, yeah, to involve everyone.
Okay, now this is the activity. In reality, all we want to know is what's the difference between the follower and the leader? What's their goal? What's their motivation? What do they do every day? And what are their accomplishments? And all I want you to do, so in your mind, and if you have a piece of paper, you can write this down on a piece of paper, or you can just think about it. Either way is fine. But you want to look at, okay, here's a follower and here's a leader. What is the difference? What's the difference between what their goal is? What's the difference between their motivation? And this is not only in their work, this is for their life. If you look at a regular follower, what's their goal in life? What do they want out of life? If you look at a leader, what's their goal in life? What do they want? What's their motivation for doing it? And then what do they do every day? And then what are their accomplishments at the end of their life? So I'll give you just a couple minutes to look at it and then I'll take you through it. Okay?
Yes.
It is kind of difficult, but just do the best you can. Just have some ideas in your mind. So now let's look at the follower. Well, what is the biggest goal of every follower? If you take the average person off the street, because the average person is going to be a worker or a follower, you take the average person off the street and you ask them, what do you want in life? What are they going to tell you?
I
I
think
think
they want to make money
They want to make money, but why do they want to make money?
because they have to be the breadwinner for the family.
Yes, and why do they have to be why do they have to make money for their family? So they survive,
Yeah,
so they can buy things.
yeah.
But why do they want to buy things? Why do they want to survive? Because they want to be what? They want to be happy. The
Oh,
goal of the average person is they're trying to find happiness in life. And I'm gonna butcher names here if I try and say your name, but I guess
yeah, Minh Anh.
Minna, you're right, because the motivation for happiness, what they think brings happiness, is money, is family, is power, entertainment, right? Everybody, the average person wants to be happy in life, and they feel that to be happy, they need to get money, family, all the regular things you see people wanting to do in life. By the way, everybody, I'm going to give you the slides. So Mina will send out the slides, so you don't have to worry about taking everything down. But if you look at, well, what is the average person doing every day? If you watch them from morning to night, what are they doing? Very simple. You'd see them wake up, they take a shower, they go to work, they spend time with their family, they'd exercise sometimes, some people don't. Sometimes they go on vacations, they do service, watch movies, eat, all of these regular daily activities you see normal people doing. And at the end of their life, what do they feel makes them very successful? Well, of course, it's their same thing that they think will bring happiness. How many things they have, their materials, the size of their house, their money, their family, the prestige, accomplishments in their life, awards that they want. This is the average person for you. So my next question becomes, well, what's the difference between the follower and the leader? So if you take someone who's a good leader in their life, what is their number one goal? What's the number one goal of every leader? And this shouldn't be surprising. It's not a trick question. Happiness. Because it doesn't matter if you're a follower or a leader, everybody wants to be happy. Nobody wants to be stressed. Nobody wants to always be worried about things. Everybody wants happiness. But what's the motivation of the leader? This is where it becomes different. The motivation of a leader is self-improvement. The leader realizes that the most important thing in life is that they continually improve themselves. It's their number one thing that they believe will bring happiness, is continually, slowly improving. Now, if you looked at every leader, the top leaders in the world, what would they do every day?
They read books.
They'd read books. They do the same things. If you watch the leader, do you think leaders have to take showers?
Yeah, they do.
Definitely. Do you think they spend time with their families?
Yes,
Yes. Do you think they exercise, take vacations?
yes.
Yes. Read books, get educated. all these things leaders do as well. And at the end of a leader's life, what are the major accomplishments? Well, amazingly, it's the same as the followers. They'll have a lot of money. They'll have good families. They'll have a lot of awards. They'll have built good things. But here's the thing, is that usually a leader will have even more money and more prestige and more awards than the followers will. But this is where I tricked you. On the surface, this seems correct. But in the mind of a leader, things are a little bit different. If you look in the mind of a leader, what they do every day, they don't do all these things every day. Their daily activities are different. A leader only does two things every single day. They develop self-control and they learn. That's all they do every day. It doesn't matter where they're at. See, you need to realize leaders don't live in a silo. So most people will be like this. I'm spending time with my family. Now I'm working out. Now I'm reading. Now I'm taking a vacation. Now I'm doing this, right? And they're looking really closely and everything's different. But a leader lifts his head up and it doesn't matter what they're doing. They're always learning and they're always developing self-control. So when they go on vacation, what do? They're learning. They're watching other people. They're learning what makes people happy. When they spend time with their family, what are they doing? They're learning about people. They're understanding what people need, what makes them happy. When they go to the gym, what are they doing? They're learning. Okay, don't like watch other people when you go to the gym. Sometimes they think it's weird, right? But they're learning self-control. They're learning to improve their body. They're learning to be healthier. When they go to work, what are they doing? They're learning. They're looking at other people. They're trying to figure out what other people need and want. Leaders, they only learn. It doesn't matter where they're at. In their mind, they're doing the same thing no matter where they go. And that's why a leader's life is so simple. They don't have to think, what do I have to do next? They're always doing the same thing, no matter where they go. Which means at the end of a leader's life, when you look at their accomplishments, even though they have a lot of money, even though they have great families, even though they have a lot of awards, leaders don't care. They don't care about the money. They don't care about anything. The only thing they care about is self-mastery. That they've developed themselves to a point that they are very capable and very loving because they understand people so well. Now, here's the thing. How and why is this important for you to understand? First off, nobody is on the follower side all the way, or nobody is on the leader side all the way. I gave extremes so you can understand the difference. But everybody's a little bit in between, right? So no one's all the way on one side. But the reason we need to know the difference is because now, what does this do to a person's life? Well, let me ask you a question. If you believe your accomplishments is money, is prestige, is family, well, if you're old, at the end of your life, if someone steals all of your money, what is that going to do to you? It's going to turn your life upside down. It's going to ruin your life. If you cared about how much money you have, and then someone stole all of your money, then it's going to really cause you to get depressed. It's going to really get you angry. is going to destabilize you. If you really care about your family and that's what makes you successful, what happens if some of your family dies? How devastating is that going to be? It's going to be really tough on you. But what happens to the leader when that stuff happens? If the leader only cares about self-mastery, then it doesn't matter if someone steals everything they have and they're homeless. Can the leader still do what they love to do? Yes, even if they're homeless on the street, they can still learn. They can still develop. They can still figure people out. Even if their family dies, they can get right back up because they can realize they can learn from the experience. They can understand what it feels like to have people who are close to them pass away. Leaders are very stable because the thing they care about in life is very different than the followers. Nobody can take away the value of a leader because they don't care about things that people can steal. Here's the thing. You got the right-hand side and you got the left-hand side. And I'm going to use this example. The right-hand side is like the Japanese automotive companies, and the left-hand side was like the American automotive companies. Now, what happened in the late 1980s? The American companies, all they cared about was what? Money. So they didn't care about their quality. They didn't care about improving. All they cared about was making money. And what happened to them? Well, things were great until people no longer bought so many cars. And then it destabilized, and all of the automotive companies in the US went bankrupt almost. There's only one or two that didn't go bankrupt. Now, what about the Japanese automotive manufacturers? The only thing they cared about was what? Continual improvement, was making the best quality vehicles. They didn't care about the money. They didn't care about anything else. They just cared about making the best vehicle. And now in the world, you see that before nobody wanted to buy Japanese cars, and now Toyota, Honda, Nissan, they are some of the biggest, largest car manufacturers in the world. And it is because they cared about quality. Now look at your own life. I always tell my students, if every day you only focus on improving your life, on understanding more, if you dedicate yourself to every day trying to become a little bit better, what's going to happen to you in 10 years, in 20 years? You're going to have tremendous value, because if you're continually trying to improve yourself every day, there is no way that you're not going to be a very capable, understanding person. And how in demand, how much do companies want someone who is continually improving and has a lot of capability? Companies are dying to find people who are very capable and continually improve themselves. If you focus on improving yourself, then in the future, you're not going to have a big enough bank account to fit all the money that companies want to give you for what you're worth. But what about those students who don't focus on improving themselves? There are many students who only care about the grade. They don't really care about learning. They just want the grade. They just want to make money quickly. They just want to find a quick job where they can make money quickly. They want to find a quick way to get rich without actually having any value and improving themselves. You start finding out that those people, they either one, they make a lot of money, but they're unhappy, or two, they never find it. They spend all this effort, but since they didn't develop themselves, they never get money. They never get the things that they wanted. Leaders are stable because they realize they have to improve themselves and they have to understand other people. Any questions with this?
So you mean that we need to improve our skills, like how to use Excel, or I don't understand which side that we need to improve.
You need to improve yourself. It's not about the technical skills, although as you improve yourself, you will gain technical skills. You will gain the ability to use Excel and things like that. But the improvement that's most important is you becoming a great leader over your own life. So for example, I'm a project manager. I consult with a lot of really, really talented management people. And what I found, if I go into a person's house and the person's house is messy, if I go into their room and their room is messy, what does that tell me about their capability to manage a project? They're not going to do well. I'm not going to trust them on my project. Why? Because people who are organized and clean, they do things in a certain way. And whether you can keep your house clean or whether you can keep the project site clean, it's the same skill. So for example, I go home sometimes when my brothers were young and I was living away, and I'd look at the kitchen and I'd tell them, guys, get everything off the counter. They leave the rice pot on the counter, they leave dishes on the counter, they leave pans on the counter. Get it all off, clear the entire counter off. And they tell me, well, why, Jacob? It doesn't matter. We're going to use it. And I told them, look, when you have things everywhere, then it can be dirty and you don't know the difference between clean and dirty because there's things everywhere. But if you make everything clean, as soon as you put one piece of rubbish on the counter, you're going to see it and you're going to know that shouldn't go there. It's ordering your mind. It's living in a way where you're an executive, a leader over your own life. And so I taught him a lesson one day. I told him, look, you keep that rice pot on the counter. You don't even know if there's rice in there. There's probably molding rice that's been in there for days. And they're like, nah, there's no rice in there. So I go over, I open it up. Sure enough, there's half a pot of rice that's been in the rice pot for 5 days. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but they left the rice in there for 5 days. They didn't even know it was in there. And I told them, this is why you keep everything clean. How you treat your own life is how you treat your work life. And so I tell students who don't have jobs, you can still be a leader, but you got to get your own life in order. You have to learn and improve so that you become a good person. So for example, one of the things people don't realize is your health is just as important as your skills. If you are not healthy, then you can't work hard enough to do a good job. When things get tough at work, when you have to work long hours, if you're not healthy, you can't do it. So for me, let me give you an example of my life. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. 3 to 3:30, I'm up in the morning. I have a morning routine. I read the news, I read good articles, I write in a journal, I look at and plan the day out before anybody else is awake. By 4:30, I'm at the gym. I go to the gym from 4:30 to 5:30. Sometimes I play a sport and then it's a little bit longer. But I come back home and I spend time with my kids for about an hour. So I can spend time with my kids from about 6 to 7 o'clock in the morning. By 7 o'clock, I'm working again. So I wake up and I work. go to the gym, work out, then I'm working again. And I'll work all the way till about 6 o'clock at night, maybe even 7 o'clock at night sometimes. I will go to bed around 8 o'clock to 8:30. So I'll spend about an hour and a half with my family again, and then I'm sleeping. And I will do the same thing every single day. On the weekends, it's a little bit different, but not much. Even though it's a weekend, I'm still waking up 3:30 in the morning to work and to look at things. When you look at how I work, when you look at my organization, I never have anything on my table. No papers, no nothing. I keep everything clear. Everything has its spot. You look at my house, I get rid of any junk. If I see we're not using something, I throw it away. I don't want any junk in my house. If you actually saw my background, there's nothing in my background except a poster because we have a middle school. So we own a middle school, and I have a poster that one of the kids drew for me and wanted me to hang up. That's it. I don't like keeping anything around. I want everything clean. And that's how my life works. Very simple. I have a routine that I follow every day. But I mentor 30 to 40 people every month. I manage 3 different companies. I do research. I write continually. And I have a very good relationship with my family. In fact, any minute now, I don't lock my work door. So any minute now, my kids could be walking in here on our leadership conference here. But improving yourself is a key. Now that we're running a little short on time, let me give you an example real quick. Does anybody know who this is? This is Nelson Mandela. And people don't realize that Nelson Mandela, when he was about 30, well, there's 2 different groups in South Africa. The Afrikaners, who are the white people who colonized South Africa, and the South Africans, who are actually the natives. They didn't like each other, and the Afrikaners imprisoned a lot of the South Africans because they wanted their own government. So Nelson Mandela, he was one of the leaders. And around when he was 30 years old, they imprisoned him for 27 years. He was in a very small jail cell for 27 years. Now imagine, how much can you do in 27 years of your life? Those were the best years of his life, and he was imprisoned the entire time. Now you might think, well, if he's in prison, then other people are influencing him so he can't do anything. But guess what? While he was in prison, people don't realize what he did. He wrote a book. He completed a law degree. He had documentaries published about him. Nelson Mandela realized that regardless of where he was at, he had to continually improve himself. He had to learn. He had to understand people. And he became friends with all of his imprisoned, the Afrikaners. He became friends with all of the leaders in the jail. And after he got out, Nelson Mandela, in 10 years, he probably did more in 10 years than most people do in a lifetime. He was the first Black president in South Africa. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. And he won numerous awards for what he did in his country. I like to use him because none of us are going to be in prison for 27 years, probably. So if Nelson Mandela can do that much in prison, what can we do in 27 years of having our freedom, right? It's not about your opportunities. It's not about other people. It's about you continually developing yourself. And what I want to leave with you is that you need to realize that this will take time. I have been trying to continually improve myself since I was in high school, right? It's been 20, 30 years. And for these people, these are all very successful people, but guess how long it took all of these people to become successful? Well, Fuku, he's the one who created the cup noodle. I don't know if you have the ramen and the cup noodle, but he created that. Before he created that, he was a very unsuccessful business person. He didn't do anything. Well, when did he create it? When he was 48 years old. Morgan Freeman, I don't know if he's an American actor, but I don't know if you know him. Very famous now, but when did he get his starring role that made him a famous actor? When he was 50. Before then, nobody knew who he was. He wasn't rich, he wasn't famous, he did nothing. This is Colonel Sanders. He created Kentucky Fried Chicken, the fast food. It's now international. But when did he create Kentucky Fried Chicken? When he was 62 years old. He was going door to door. His wife left him. He was bankrupt. He had no money. He last ditch effort to try to do something with his life at 62 years old. And he started this restaurant. And now that restaurant made him a billionaire, right? Stan Lee, he created Marvel. He was about to quit. He thought he was very bad at comics. He was 41 years old when he created Marvel. And this is Ray Kroc, who created McDonald's, 52 years old when he was able to create the McDonald's fast food chain. Greatness takes time. So if you look at yourself and you think, I'm so bad, I don't do anything, I didn't do anything, don't worry about it. Just keep on moving and trying to improve yourself. One of the things of all great leaders is that they always knew that things would work out. And my last thought with you, this is my last slide. My last thought is try not to worry. If you just try and you keep moving, things will always work out for you. It's a natural law that if you are continually improving yourself every day and trying to be better, that you will get there. And that is the biggest thing of up and coming leaders, is that they just keep trying. And that is all I have. Thank you so much for having me, everyone.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, that's a very powerful message that you left with us. The message that I feel like we need to be reminded every time, every day.
Yes.
Okay, we open for questions. I believe there will be a lot of questions in the room right now. Feel free to unmute yourself and speak directly to the speaker, or type in the chat, or yeah, whatever is easy and suitable for you, please go ahead. While we're waiting, I feel like we have some question in the registration that I'd like to read it out loud to you. Okay, the first question is about the challenges for female leader to overcome. And
Now look, when I look at the challenges of female leaders, every leader has challenges. And it just depends on what environment you're in. But female leaders have no other issues other than every other leader, which is depending on who you are and who your followers are, you have to figure out how you fit in. You have to figure out how you connect with everybody else. Females are naturally different than males. You know, biologically, we're different.
Yes.
Chemically, we're different. And so a female leader will not be the same as a male leader. But you have to figure out in your own life and in your own organization how you have to overcome them. I wish I could tell you a blanket statement for, hey, you know, these are all the challenges, but, you know, it's the same. Some people might not respect you. You might not be given the same opportunities as males in your organization. It might be tougher for you because people don't believe you're as skilled as some of your counterparts. But that even happens with males competing against males. You know, some people, they're taller, some people are shorter. Some people might discriminate you based upon your looks. These are all challenges that you as a female will encounter, but these are challenges that everyone encounters. I'm a very short male in America. I'm only like 5'5", and that's really short in America. So some people, when they look around, they don't think of me as a chairman of my organization because I'm not this tall guy. But that doesn't bother me, right? It's just a challenge I have to overcome. Okay, I think there's a chat.
Yeah, I think a question from the chat that we prioritize a little bit more. It said that if there is more than one leader, say 2 leaders and co-founders, and have different style, the one like your dad in the first place and the one with no influence style, how do we put each other in the right place?
Okay, this is a very difficult. When I first started with my dad, we would argue all the time. But I found out I needed to be the one to change. When you understand no influence leadership, it always tells you that you have to be the one to figure out the compromise. You have to work with your co-founder. You have to understand who your co-founder is, understand what their constraints are. And the more you do, the more you'll figure out what you can do and what they can do. And you can come to an agreement on exactly how you're going to run the organization. There are many people that I work with that don't believe in this no influence leadership idea. But it allows me the opportunity to figure out who they are and what I can do to make things smoother. Hopefully that can answer your question.
Thank you. I feel like it's so similar with a family situation when we have a child and we have a mom and a dad who co-parenting a child with different style, and we can have, you know, a lot of conflict of how to raise our child, because our child is very important for each of us and we can argue all the time.
So let me give you an example out of my own raising children. So this is my deal, is I don't want any rules on my children. I want them to have total freedom. I want them to do whatever they want to do. But my number one rule is whatever my wife wants, that's what we do. Even though I don't want rules, if my wife wants to put a rule on the children, that's what we do. Because I realize it doesn't matter what I think is the best. What's the most important is that me and my wife have a very loving relationship and we care about each other and we're stable. When my wife is happy, when I'm happy, then my children will get the best environment for growing up. Right? And this is the same way with work.
Thank you. I think they're very assuring to a lot of female here.
Now, unfortunately, that is not the perspective of most men.
I know. Any question? Everyone? I think we will prioritize the question that we have right here with people who are still staying in the room. rather than on the registration. So if you have anything that you want to ask or you want to share, please feel free. We open the space for you. Oh, we have another question. Like, people have doubts and suspect about their plans sometimes, and it could stop them to take actions, especially when people tell you that it's not going to work. Leaders are people. How can leaders overcome doubts and suspect and keep going to achieve their goal? Thank you. Great question.
Yes, this is a really tough one. Everybody doubts. There is an up-and-coming food chain in the US. It's called Cane's Chicken. And in 10 years, this thing went from nothing to a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Guess who created it? A 20-year-old college student that made a business plan for creating a chicken restaurant, and their business professor, told them this will never work. The banks told them this will never work. And then 10 years later, it becomes multi-billion-dollar corporation. Leaders realize that yes, their plan might not work, but if they just do it, they will always learn from it. See, it doesn't actually matter if your plan will work or not. The only thing that matters is you do something. So leaders, if people tell them this won't work, then they say, well, why? And they learn. They listen to what people tell them, and they do the best they can, but they keep moving. And this just takes a confidence in you, right? One of the things I tell people is always find a good mentor, someone who believes in you, because you're going to need someone to continually tell you, don't worry about it, just keep moving. It doesn't matter if no one believes, you believe, and you just keep working, because you're going to need support when people doubt. But very good question.
Yeah, I want to jump in and echo with that because I want to share my own story of sometimes I was so blind of not really looking at the reality. Oh, and Jacob was there for me. I was very stubborn and I couldn't see that a big change is happening for me when my mom is really sick, and I was really insisting on she being healthy and be there for me forever. And it's a crazy time for me when I couldn't accept the fact that she's sick and going to die, and it's terrible for me to really look at the reality. And having a mentor there to see the truth and to support is super important in my life at that time and until now, to help me to to hold me here, this is the truth, and guide me gently through that period of time. I'm still very moved when I talk about this story with anyone.
Now, Mino, it looks like someone put a question, but in Vietnamese. Is that a question or a comment in the chat?
Oh, it's notes that we're taking notes for people so that they
Got
can
it.
have some translation. Yeah. And hey everyone, we open for the last question. If you have anything in your mind, feel free to bring it up here. That's it, the last question we have tonight. And yeah, and then we will closing the session. So hurry up if you have something in your mind right now, or any feedback, any sharing that you want to talk.
I have a question.
Yes.
Currently, I'm 20, but I have a mindset that I want to be a successful woman in the future. So how, in your point of view, what do you think about how women can do to balance the work and family life?
Very good. This is a really tough one. Anytime you have to balance two things that you really love, what I always tell them is, if you're looking at which one's more important, work or family, family is always more important because it's what you do every day. It's the core of who you are. The more you practice leadership in your family, the more you make your family more efficient, you provide more love to your children and your relationship, the more you make your personal life work well, you become more stable, you become happier. And when you're stable and happier, that is what's going to allow you to be able to do the best at your work. People who are happy and stable and supported from a family, they always perform better in the workplace. Always. If you look at the statistics, people who make more money, people who are able to rise to leadership positions in their companies, they usually always have very stable and successful families. There are some people who don't, but the average majority, they always have very good, stable families and personal lives. The opportunity comes when you have the capability. So if you develop in your personal life and you're continually improving in your family, you're going to find out that opportunities in the workplace are going to open up, right? Sometimes people think it's lucky. It's not lucky. The opportunity will just appear when you're ready. It's a natural law. So when you're trying to balance the two and you're trying to choose, well, what should I put more effort into? Especially when you're young, it's the family. Because you're going to find out that that's going to give you more capability in the long run.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. That might not be what you're expecting to hear, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jacob, for a great presentation. So now we have a Mentimeter here. So everyone, please go to the Mentimeter link on the chat. Nhi, please send the link on the chat. And we have the QR code here. Back slide, please. And we will ask for the key takeaway that you got from today's section. Oh, okay. Mentimeter and okay, wait for me to take the link here. Please go to the link and we're asking for the key takeaway. Oh, sorry, it looks messy. Hey, did you get the link yet? Yeah, please resend the link. The one I sent was quite. You can stop share screen now. So it's yeah. Link on the chat. We're waiting for the responses. Please go to the chat and see and tell us what are your key takeaways from the webinars. So it take a few minutes for people to write down. We would appreciate if everyone can join and share your opinion. Ok mọi người ơi, chúng mình có cái link Mentimeter, mọi người thấy rồi đấy, mình có thể vào đấy để gõ. Mình thoải mái gõ bằng tiếng Anh hay tiếng Việt thì mà mình cảm thấy dễ nhá, mình không cần phải quá căng thẳng về tiếng Anh đâu ạ. Mình feel free in Vietnamese or English. Wow, great keyword. Beautiful. And again, thank you, Jacob, for great presentation. It's very eye-opening. Yes, I think that's a very for a few people here, that's the very first time they hear about this concept. So if we want to learn more about no influence mentoring and about no influence leadership, how we can get access or to learn more?
You know, I have a book written, it's called No Influence Mentorship. And anyone, that would like to read more and learn more about this, I also have a written thing about leadership that gives a little bit more data behind it. But anyone who wants to learn more about it, why don't you get their names and their things, and we'll give you a soft copy of the books, and you can just send it out so they don't have to buy it. They can just read it if they want more.
Thank you so much. Yay. So we have the book and some article that you write about leadership as well. That's beautiful and generous. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, I think I read the book already, but I definitely have to read again. I think it's always a reminder, sometimes I feel like I kind of forgot it.
Yes.
Oh, beautiful word, everyone. Jacob, you can look at the word cloud right now. I think people are really um have I think they got a lot of things from the what you already shared. Ah, beautiful. I think it's more key takeaways are coming. And okay, thank you so much. Uh, we will send you, Jacob. We will send you this one if you want to, the key takeaway at the word cloud. I think it's beautiful to share
That'd
with
be great.
you. Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you everyone. For Cảm ơn tất cả mọi người, mình đã đi đến những cái giờ phút cuối cùng của cái webinar đầu tiên ngày hôm nay. Chúng mình ở vai trò là ban tổ chức cũng đang thấy rất là xúc động khi mà nhận được rất là nhiều cái phản hồi từ mọi người về những cái điều mà mọi người cảm thấy là nó quan trọng và là những điều mọi người sẽ mang về ngày hôm nay. Thế thì chúng mình với She Hub thì mỗi một lần mà chúng mình tổ chức một sự kiện, dù nó có thể không quá đông người, nhưng mà bọn mình rất là cảm ơn và rất là mừng vì có thể mang tới được những cái thông tin, những cái giá trị quý giá. She Hub hiện tại thì đang tổ chức các cái chương trình hoạt động liên tục từ bây giờ cho đến tháng 4, tức là còn khoảng 2-3 tháng nữa. She Hub có rất nhiều hoạt động mà chúng mình đang diễn ra thường xuyên, đấy là hoạt động về coaching, và bọn mình đang có các cái section coaching 1-1 dành cho các bạn alumni. Và ở đây thì bọn mình có đi vào những cái chủ đề rất là cụ thể liên quan đến sự nghiệp, công việc, phát triển bản thân, các mối quan hệ và cả lãnh đạo. Và chúng mình sẽ mở các cái hoạt động coaching này cho tới tháng 2 năm nay. Tức là chúng mình còn 1 tháng nữa để thực hiện các hoạt động này, và hiện tại thì đang hơn phân nửa slot đã được fill up rồi, nên nếu mà bạn nào là alumni ở trong đây chưa đăng ký coaching thì mời các bạn đăng ký ngay và luôn. Và nhờ Thủy hoặc là Nhi gửi cái link đăng ký coaching cho các bạn. Sau đấy thì bọn mình cũng sẽ vào tháng 2, ngay sau Tết xong, bọn mình có một cái online webinar tiếp theo và chúng ta sẽ nói về chủ đề là relationship với các bạn female alumni. Và cái chủ đề, cái online webinar này cũng sẽ open cho public và cho tất cả mọi người. Nếu mọi người quan tâm, mọi người cứ thoải mái tham gia. Mình tin là cái nội dung này, nội dung tiếp theo nó cũng sẽ là một cái nội dung quý giá để chúng ta nhìn được những cái mối quan hệ của mình trong đời sống của mình, trong công việc của mình, trong gia đình của mình. Và cái online webinar thứ hai nó sẽ diễn ra vào tầm khoảng 25 tháng 2. Chết rồi, mình không nhớ lịch nữa, 25 tháng 2 thì phải, nhưng mà ngay sau Tết một xíu thôi. Và mình sẽ có một diễn giả khác là chị Vũ Mai Khôi, cũng là một coach với nhiều năm kinh nghiệm ấy, nên là cũng sẽ hứa hẹn rất là thú vị và mong mọi người đăng ký tham gia. Đấy là một xíu giới thiệu thêm về She Hub cho mọi người. Cảm ơn mọi người rất là nhiều. Và mình sẽ có, trước khi mình kết thúc, chắc là mình sẽ xin phép mời mọi người chụp on camera, mình chụp với nhau chung một cái ảnh nè. Như em tắt share screen để mình on camera chụp ảnh. Jacob, we will take a screenshot of picture in our room today.